They bolted on the parts that let you whip yourself around the level a little bit more, but didn't piece together any faster movement or anything else like that. And so they talk about it like, oh, it's the most mobile Borderlands yet. And you're like, yeah, that's true. I would not call it an especially mobile game. Like it is not a mobility shooter. It is not like it's just bleh. And I think they could do more with it. I think they could do a lot more with it. That's always been my frustrating take on Borderlands is, man, it really just feels like there's a much better game here.
Yeah, I did.
A much better game here hiding under the surface.
Especially
but like generally, I think separate from whatever weird fucking meltdown is happening online, like it's fine. Whatever. Do you want to play a new Borderlands game? If you're in that market, they made another one of those, and you'll be like, cool, man. And if you're like a normal person of sound mind, you will say, wow, this is better than the last one. I said, oh man, so like when the review embargo was up, I was like, oh well, I mean, it's better than Borderlands 3. And like, there's always going to be like 2 or 3 people like, I really liked Borderlands 3, and I'm like, fucking go with God, man. Have fucking fun with that, I guess. Maybe you'll love this. This will be your favorite game. Get your cosplay shit together, man. There's 4 new idiots to look like. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about something else after this. Fall is here. And, depending on where you are, that might mean that things are cooling off a little bit. Not here. It is hot as ever, and I think it's going to stay that way for at least the next month and a half. But I can't wait for it to cool off. The nice news is that no matter what the temperature is, MeUndies is ready for you. If it's hot out and you need something that's going to be, a little moisture wicking and help let things breathe, MeUndies and its micro-modal fabric is ready for you. But as things cool down a little bit and you're wearing flannels and longer pants, jeez, and all that other stuff in layers, MeUndies is ready for you as well. They can be cozy, perfect for crisp mornings, chilly nights, and everything in between. And on top of that, just in time for spook season, MeUndies has limited edition Halloween prints. Fun, festive, and they've got glow-in-the-dark underwear so you can bring the spooky vibes underneath it all. They've got a cut for every butt with over 20 different styles in 100 different colors and prints. Yes, they are comfortable no matter what you are doing. If you're out and you're picking up pumpkins, moisture wicking technology, anti-odor technology, stay a little fresher, a little longer, nice. They use sustainably sourced materials. They work with partners that care for their workers. And if you're not happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. With more than 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies are an essential summer must-have for every drawer. And fall as well. These have been very nice. They sent over a few pairs of these. They have very quickly become my favorite underwear. I should take all these. You probably have. You had a bunch of blown out boxer shorts that are just like a few years too old. And you're like, I should be wiping a car with these or something. I don't know. What am I? I shouldn't be putting them on my body. MeUndies. Start replacing the nightmare underwear in your drawer with spooky Halloween styles. Right now, since you can hear my voice, you can get cozy and spooky with deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/Jeff and enter the promo code Jeff. That's MeUndies.com/Jeff. Promo code Jeff for up to 50% off. MeUndies. Yep. Comfort that's made for fall.
You passed the first test. Congratulations.
Wow. What?
The Virtual Boy is in the news. Boy. What the hell, man? Nintendo ran a Nintendo Direct last week with a bunch of information about upcoming games. They put a date on Metroid Prime 4. That date is December 4th.
Yeah.
They put out DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza, including like a run-based rogue light mode.
You know, when lovemaking becomes
that I have installed but have not. You have to finish the game in order to do that stuff, and I'm right at the end of the game. My kids lost interest in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
No, dude. What the
They,
fuck?
we were playing a lot of it, or I guess I was playing a lot of it, and they were watching me, and I think they got tired of watching games and started wanting to play them more.
It's like a business.
And Donkey Kong was not doing it for them. Got very close to the end, and I do know how the game ends, which I think also kind of robbed me of some of the desire to finish it, because of the strings they try to pull on stuff near the end. But yeah, they have added a new island that is like kind of a it's Donkey Kong Isle, so it's like a throwback to some of the other kind of bad mid-period Donkey Kong stuff. You know, your Donkey Kong Countries, your DK64s, like that rough period. That rough period where Rare was making, you know, the developers of Banjo-Tooie, everyone's favorite video game. That stuff. And so yeah, that's not that is not super interesting to me at all. And so, you know, them kind of leaning on that, it's a bummer. I don't know, like to me, the exciting thing was like, oh man, they're redesigning Donkey Kong. They're kind of putting him in this new context, with his new cool kid that she's singing her heart out, and like establishing this big new thing. And so I think to like rein it back in, to like tie it to all of this other stuff that you could have kind of cut ties on, and just, you know, like, regardless of how you feel about the quality of that stuff, right? A lot of people do like that stuff because people are dumb. This would be a great opportunity to kind of close the book on that and open something brand new. And they do a really good job. Like, that's a great, Donkey Kong Bonanza is a great video game. And I think that stuff is kind of frustrating. That they kind of hedged there a little bit with some of this stuff, but it is what it is. I also don't know that I like a run-based, like, you know, like go get all these emeralds and do these runs to get these emeralds in different levels, and the locations don't change, so you can optimize your run to figure out the best way to get the most of the, like the pitch on that just doesn't sound super appealing to me. Like, that doesn't sound like something I want to do, I guess, you know, like, so finishing the game and going and doing that stuff, like no part of that sounds like something I'm like super excited to do, which is a shame because I do love this. I do love smashing. I do love splashing. Yes. Playing is for pleasure. They announced, while we're on the subject of things Nintendo could announce, they also are making a new Yoshi game. Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is coming out next year. They're putting out DLC and a Switch 2 update for Super Mario Wonder, which is kind of neat. They're making a Mario Tennis game that'll be out next year called Mario Tennis Fever. They were holding this event right around the 40th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers. And so everyone was wondering, like, what are they going to do with Mario? What's going to happen with Mario? They announced the official title of the second Super Mario movie, confirming it will be called the Super Mario Galaxy Movie. And they're going to release Galaxy and Galaxy 2. That'll be in a bundle for $70, but you can buy each game individually for like $40. And so if you want to replay the Galaxy games, they'll be putting those out in some capacity here next month. Some third-party stuff. Hades got a date. That's out end of September. Obviously, that's on a zillion platforms. I think this is also where they confirmed the date for Mortal Kombat, right? That's the end of October. There's going to be a Suika game sequel out this year. They're remaking Dragon Quest VII. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined will be out in February, Dragon Quest VII was such a big deal when it came out, even though the Dragon Quest franchise hadn't really, I don't know, like maybe it wasn't a huge deal here in the US, but like I remember when that game was coming out on the PlayStation, how insane it seemed, like the fervor for it. It was probably the first Dragon Quest game that I was like covering the video game industry day to day when Dragon Quest VII was coming out. And so it was the first release of one of those that I was kind of, not necessarily on the front lines for, but I was in the game or whatever. And I remember being blown away by how big of a deal that seemed in Japan. And that's when I learned all the stuff like, I think the some of the stuff is maybe a little overblown or overstated, but that was when I first heard the idea that like, they legally have to release Dragon Quest games on the weekend because kids were skipping school and people were leaving work to go get Dragon Quest games. They're making amiibo for Kirby Air Riders and they're like $50, which is that's too much. I don't know. You want like a cool looking Kirby? I feel like you could get a cooler looking Kirby for $50 than an amiibo. It's just kind of, I don't know, man. I heard so people in chat are asking about the Dragon Quest thing, but like that was stated as fact then. Like, like Japan decreed that you cannot release a Dragon Quest game during the week because it fucks up so much stuff, and like people go wait in line or whatever it is. And the truth of it is muddier than like that's not quite the case. There's stuff around it, and the popularity is certainly legitimate, right? Like Dragon Quest is a huge franchise, or at least it was there. I feel like maybe it's cooled off in the years ahead because they haven't necessarily hit it the same way that they used to. But the Dragon Quest VII, like when that came out, there was a lot of like, are they going to localize this because they skipped so many games here in the US that didn't come out, and this and that. There's just a lot of stuff like that where that game seemed like a very big deal and then kind of wasn't coming out for a long time, and it's sort of a weird. Anyway, they're going to do this remake in February, which I think is cool. A lot of people haven't played that game, and it always seemed like such a huge deal that even I saw that announcement and I was like, oh fuck yeah, like I should fucking play Dragon Quest VII finally. Holy shit. Like, yeah, man. I don't know if I will, but like that's super interesting to me, historically, because that was such a big deal when it came out, but it was a big deal in another country. And so it just was like, you're kind of covering it as this cultural thing and not necessarily the game itself. But there's a new Pokemon that kind of is a called Pokemon Pokopia that Koei Tecmo is doing, and that game kind of looks like a Dragon Quest Builders sort of thing, except you're playing as a Ditto who looks like a person, and that's fucked up. I'm sorry, that's fucked up.
Come on, babies.
But the big news.
The big news. What's the big news?
The big news out of the Nintendo Direct is that on February 17th, 2026, according to a write-up from your friends at videogameschronicle.com, who recently ranked the top 40 Mario games, they put their heads together and came up with a list of the top 40 Mario platformers, and Super Mario Brothers Special was not on the list. And I'm really
I can keep
confused. I feel
Thank you for more.
I don't know, betrayed? Like, these people seem like they know what they're talking. They seem like they know games. And then I see this list, and now I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. 14 Virtual Boy games will be released for the Switch and Switch 2 over time, they say. There's like 22 in all, so presumably some of them they couldn't find the rights to or whatever else. But they're going to put Virtual Boy games onto the Switch as part of the kind of class. You're not going to buy these separately. It's another kind of like, hey, you're subscribed to our thing. It is coming to the expansion pack tier, so you have to have paid for the expensive version of their online stuff in order to get access to this. They are also going to make a shell for the Switch and Switch 2 that you can put it into, that will have lenses so you can look into it like it was a real Virtual Boy, and I guess see it in 3D the way it was originally released. If you're not familiar with the Virtual Boy, it was a set of goggles. It was not a VR headset. It was a thing you looked into, and it was a 3D image. It was a 3D image, and it would, it was all red. It would only produce one color, and that color was red, and shades of red, generally. And it was a miserable failure. They put out a game called Teleroboxer that in some ways is kind of a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out sort of deal. I remember being at, I guess this would have been CES. This would have been before E3. Because the Virtual Boy came out in 1995. People in chat are... Wait, okay, so I'm sorry. I was under the assumption that you could play the Virtual Boy games just kind of as is in a 2D mode, but some people in the chat are saying that you will... Yeah, okay, no. This news story says it will be required. You will need... You are forced to have an add-on, and there are two versions of the add-on. One is made of cardboard. And then there is a full-on plastic shell you can get and put it in there. The shell is $100. So, $100. Yes, as part of your subscription, you get 14 Virtual Boy games. But I guess in order to play them, you either need to spend like $30 on the cardboard version or $100 on a fake Virtual Boy to put a Switch or Switch 2 into. Look, I played the Virtual Boy quite a bit before it was out because they had it at CES, in the months leading up to its release, and it was even then, even at a time when Nintendo was releasing a new platform, which should have seemed like the biggest deal in the world, the Virtual Boy was off to the side in their booth. It was not a huge presence as a part of their booth. It was like, and here's the Virtual Boy. It's the new thing we're working on. You can play Teleroboxer right here, right now, or Mario Clash, or like whatever the handful of. They had, I think, 2 or 3 different games on display there. Good. But Teleroboxer was the big one. Teleroboxer was the one at CES that year that was like, okay, the fists are like coming right at me. This is nuts. But I remember walking away from testing it out and playing some of those games then, before the system came out, and being like, dude, this thing's fucking disgusting. It's like a big joke. What's wrong with you? Like, are you crazy? Like these games are like these weird all red Game Boy games with no backgrounds because the 3D works better that way. Like, it was just, it was bad. It's not to say that those games aren't interesting and that some of them aren't cool, but like it didn't fail because they didn't know how to market it. It didn't fail because they just, they didn't have the, if they had 1 or 2 more games, like it just was a bad way to play games. And then it came out and it was like, I want to say it was pretty expensive. I was like, like $189 or something like that. Like, it was too much money at the time.
I had 250,000 G.
And it just seemed like a bad deal all around.
And 10,000.
And I remember being like, on top of everything else, being like, dude, this is like, wait, I can't just strap it to my face. Like it comes on a little kickstand, and you would set it on a table, and you would lean forward and look into it and squint into it that way to see it. And some people would lay down with it on there, you know, and lay it on their face.
Like market and sell.
Which I guess is a way to go.
I'll put my melons.
I love it. I love that they're doing this because it's one of the weirder moves. Like at a time when a lot of people are saying, boy, Nintendo sure does keep doing the safest shit in the world. The Switch 2 sure is the most boring thing they could have made. Yeah, well, now they're going to make a $100 plastic shell for you to fucking plug your Switch 2 into so you can play Virtual Boy games.
It did not work.
So you can play
in the
Jack
summer,
Brothers.
Didn't keep them from dying. What about
Jack
shade?
Brothers in the building?
Or maybe you have to plant different crops in the summer.
Yeah, you do.
You got to plant summer crops. Well, I'm just saying. I noticed what
It's
happened.
great. You know, there are very few ways to play the Virtual Boy the way it was originally intended to be played, because the Virtual Boy is a very strange. Like, on top of that, it has a weird controller. It was a controller with two D-pads
Jalapeno did
on either side, and buttons and shoulders. So it's a weird thing to emulate. In fact, I don't think the Switch 2 controllers will be an amazing way to play these games. It'll be functional, I'm sure.
They were hard.
I wonder if you'll use the shoulder buttons, if you'll use the two D-pad. Well, a lot of games don't use both D-pads on top of that, so it's like.
I think that's why it takes so much time building up those strong leaps.
And it produces all the
so good on them for doing this, because it's ridiculous, and you can go play like Red Alarm or whatever, and
outside. I'll be right back.
And you know, whatever the list of games that they
we had to get it from a packet.
Yeah,
I had that image of the available games. They did put out an image with all the box art for all the stuff.
Yeah, they're like.
And it's like, it's Tetris and V-Tetris, and it's Galactic Pinball, which is a terrible game. Like, a lot of these games are not good. You need to know that going in. You need to know going in that a lot of these games are not good. And I think even Teleroboxer, which I think is a game that kind of gets some of the lion's share of discussion around it. Like, it's not a great game. The Wario game, the Mario game, like, they're not. They're worth taking a look at, you know? It's the sort of thing that I feel like you should be able to look at without having to spend any money on cardboard or a plastic shell or anything. And so I'm kind of weirded out that they're not going to let you play these in a 2D mode or in some kind of 2D format. I think that's really strange that they're going to require you to buy the accessory. But I guess, without the accessory, like, there's really nothing there, without it being in 3D, without the novelty of that thing. Like, most of the games don't stand on their own. And so maybe that's kind of the right move. I bought a Virtual Boy on the cusp of them discontinuing it, which did not take long. But all the KB Toys locations I think they were going out of business around the same time. Like, KB was going under, and the Virtual Boy had failed to make a dent in the market. And so I bought a brand new Virtual Boy on clearance for, like $30 or something, and bought a handful of games, at the same time, because they were just blowing that shit out, trying to get it off the shelves. It's neat that they're doing this. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they're doing this. And that's maybe my favorite part about it. But if you're asking for like an actual recommendation, like, hey, should you go and buy this stuff? Like, do you are these going to be like great games that you're going to be excited to see? Like, I really don't think so. I really don't think that most of these games are good enough to warrant that expenditure. It's a tough sell. You want to play a Mario Tennis game in 3D? Like, yeah, you can. It works. It works the way you think it should. The other thing I'd say is that, like, you can play a lot of Virtual Boy games in 2D on a computer or a lot of devices. That stuff has been duplicated and emulated in a handful of different ways, including, and I have not tried this, but I believe you can play Virtual Boy games in a VR headset and get the 3D effect that you would even be missing otherwise. You can also do it on a 3DS, apparently, which is crazy. I have not done that either, but that sounds intriguing. But I love that they're going to sell a weird piece of plastic for this. I love that they're going to sell a plastic shell for the Switch that lets you... It reminds me of the year that it was like around the time of the Oculus Rift launching. And so it was kind of coming out for the first time. It wasn't quite on shelves yet. They weren't selling it yet. But they were showing games at E3. And I remember we were coming out of our appointment to see their stuff as Nintendo was going in. And so it's like Miyamoto and a couple of other guys going into a meeting room to go play VR. And we're watching this unfold and just like I wonder what those guys are going to think of that. I wonder if they'll make a VR thing. Probably not, right? Doesn't seem like their sort of thing anyway. And then you can't help but think about the Virtual Boy in the middle of all of this. And it took some time, but here we are. The Virtual Boy is back, motherfucker. They should make some new games. That'd be... If they wanted to be as silly as possible, making new Virtual Boy games would be the silliest thing they could possibly do. But it's good, this feels like the spirit of the Labo cardboard nonsense that they made last generation. Like this feels like a big, crazy, dumb thing for them to do, and good on them. Good on them. Good on them. The hassle is going to be that I bet that those plastic shells sell out immediately, the same way all the like new USB versions of the retro controllers do. When they go like, oh, we're going to sell a SNES controller because we're putting Super Nintendo games on the Switch, and now you can buy and like when they do that, that stuff is out of stock like immediately. I have to imagine the Virtual Boy will be just gone. Like the minute it goes on sale. But hopefully they'll restock it. Hopefully they'll restock it. I don't know. No. Right? I guess they should do that. Still hard for me to eat. I guess they should do that. I tried. Dude, I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know what to make of it. Let's take one more break. We'll come back and we'll get into the rest of the news.
You have to burn it after this to get it crisp.
Hey, what's the story with your hair? Are you happy with it? Is it thinning out a little bit? What's going on? Are you reaching for hats a little more often? Stop it.
Do it. We get it.
Turn to Hims. Hims offers 100% online access to prescription treatments for regrowing hair in as little as 3 to 6 months, so you can see a fuller head of hair by the time fall is over. That's right. Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that work, including chews, oral medication, serums, and sprays. Doctor trusted, clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil can stop hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months.
Like, oh yeah, we haven't been eating real.
And you shouldn't have to go out of your way, to handle this, to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatments that put your goals first. There's no hidden fees and no surprise costs. Just real personalized care on your schedule.
That's what I was telling
Hims is like a digital front door that'll get you back to where you want to be with simple 100% online access to those trusted treatments for real health concerns, all in one place. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/Jeff. That's hims.com/Jeff for your free online visit. hims.com/Jeff.
Even then,
individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
So it's all the same cow.
Yeah.
And that can't be good, dude. And they're cloning that same cow over and over So
today is
we're
the
all
day for
Franken
Skate.
Cow, dude.
It went live, I guess,
No, I think we're dead.
not long after we started recording this here podcast today.
To me, that sounds like a little bit of bullshit. Like, really,
they've fixed a few things. There's patch notes to go with this rollout. They've been allowing people to play it for
round instead of just throwing the bull out there and letting him do his thing.
Like there are people that have tested things in Skate that are not currently in the shipping game. They're launching it in some kind of, they're calling it early access. It says early access and big letters on the screen when you're launching it and all of that sort of stuff.
Ear tag them all.
It's a weird launch. Of course, it's a free-to-play game, and they are selling stuff. They've got founders packs that are like $44.99 or something. You're telling me all that's cheaper than just
throwing them in a fucking pasture and letting them fuck. You're a lying motherfucker, dude.
Buy a pair of Dickies.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
No, they're all lies. I swear to God, it's all half lies. That they make
already,
remember
so I'm not going to go over it too much. But
the Chinese Empire and how.
They
That's
did
what
roll
it is.
out
They just kept fucking when it was like, this can't be cheaper than just letting them go buy some Mexican cows from Mexico.
Because they have not patched the game in a few weeks. So people have been playing a build of the game, and it's been
and you're moving them in these $80,000
it's been very messy
stock trailers.
These past few weeks.
The dude that's doing it's making $180,000.
They're making some changes that will fix some of that, and they're acknowledging that there are some things that they are going to fix in a few weeks with their next patch, which is
you're a fucking liar if you tell me.
When I look at what they fixed and I look at what I saw in that game, this to me seems like you will probably still see some glitches.
Yeah, after they pay your sales tax, your
stuck
city
out
tax,
to me
your
in their
tax,
notes here.
Your OSHA, then.
Is under the heading Progression Update.
Ties,
our Insider's preview showed you guys cranking through the game.
And then they turn around and
so the team has looked deeply into progression rates and made some changes to how fast you earn XP.
Oh my fucking God.
We've eliminated any per
drop
much alcohol
when you're not at work.
Removed XP gain from items acquired through neighborhood rank up. We've streamlined all gains from drop items to be 50 XP regardless of rarity. And we have balanced XP gains in Market Mile mission item rewards.
And now they can't even make fucking cars,
on the eve of it launching, they have decided to make the progression way slower.
You can't even make a big building because all that shit gets stolen. This game, in between.
It basically has like 4 neighborhoods.
You're all fucking criminals, dude.
You don't get quests challenges don't appear in all 4 of those neighborhoods out of the gate. You're locked. You can stay wherever, but they're just empty zones full of nothing. All of the challenges and goals and things are centered on one part of the world.
And then you try to tell all of us your kids were better than our fucking
and then the
kids.
third,
like,
you
what
kind of make your way through it.
And then their kids stole everything.
My feeling on the game
37 trillion, they stole everything. They can get their fucking hands on, dude. They're beautiful little fucking upper middle class children who were so fucking special stole everything.
Because it had these timed challenges. Challenges will be like, get this score and you have 5 minutes to check off everything on this list. Like grind 30 feet, do 5-foot tricks, do a couple of grabs, do a body flip, whatever it is. Like they put together a few things. There's a few different types of challenges, but they give you ample time to complete most of that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
There are challenges in the game that are permanent, and they will be checked off when you complete them, and you can't really do them again. And then there are time-limited challenges that kind of disappear out of the city and come back, like on a schedule. And you'll see on the map screen, it'll say challenges refresh in 11 hours, whatever. It's daily,
the system was
12 hours. I don't know what the actual rate of
so much time and energy to make them working.
The problem is that you'll
feel like shit about
you'll complete a quest, you'll complete a challenge in the game, you'll get credit for it, and be like, okay, cool. And then you'll load the game up 3 days later, and that same challenge will be back in the world.
We smoke,
and it will be listed as uncompleted because it's a timed challenge that has gone away and since come back.
Whatever the fuck it is.
And so there are challenges in that game that I've done like 5 or 6 times.
We were the only people holding this motherfucker together, dude.
Because they just keep coming back over and over again. And so it has this knock-on effect of making the game feel incredibly repetitive.
It's just that extra.
So if they are also in conjunction with that being already
extra,
in my eyes, a pretty big problem with the game, if they're going to slow down the rate at which you earn XP so that it takes longer for you to open up challenges in the other areas of the game. Oh shit, that sounds terrible, dude. Like
I think this is how games got born, man.
They fixed some crash bugs.
It built up, and then
there was the weird notifications that were popping up that they corrected. There's some stuff
they
that
didn't lie, or they were probably brutal, but they just didn't lie.
Fixed performance issues related to quick dropping items.
Because you know what you got.
One of the bugs I experienced, which is quick drops, which is like you unlock ramps. Like some of the things you unlock are like ramps and quarter pipes and rails.
We don't got to
and
sit
stuff,
here
and so
day scheming. It's real easy to make decisions now. And now we can move the fuck on
to create little,
instead of trying to find a glitch in the fucking matrix somewhere,
dude. Make it easy for you, or whatever. Just if you're skating around, you can plop some shit down and skate on it if you want.
Sorry.
Sometimes those were broken. In fact, there was a challenge, like a tutorial-based challenge around using that system. And I was trying to place items in world, and they were not showing up. They were invisible. They weren't showing up at all, like whatever it was. So I was stuck. I'd like quit the game and relaunch it a few times before it finally started working.
But yeah,
that bug is not fixed in today's patch. That is something that is still on their known issues list. And it will be fixed in update 28 coming in a few weeks.
No lie. No, this is the way it is, dude.
The list of known issues is crazy. Known issue. Players can be trapped by drop items in shop spawn locations. Workaround. Change quick drop visibility in your social settings to only me.
China, what is
so
China
if you turn off other players' items, then you won't get boxed in. You can grief players by dropping ramps around them that they can't get out from. Real cool. Crazy that wasn't something that they... I mean, again, like numbers of people have been playing this for a long time. It's
what do we have for that?
It doesn't seem like that's a new issue that they just realized was happening. There's a lot of stuff like that. Whatever, man. Priorities, right? They're fixing crash bugs. Those are probably bigger deals than what we're talking about here. And they did fix some crash bugs. They also renamed some shoes. I don't know. These patch notes, like for a game that I was already like kind of bummed about, like, oh man, there's a core to this where it plays pretty well, and and plays mostly like the old skate games in ways that you're like, oh, this is it's neat that this exists at all. The levels and the piles of stuff you have to put up with just to enjoy that experience of it being this free-to-play game and all this cosmetic stuff and all these challenges that you have to take forever to unlock. For this to be the launch day update, is really
propaganda. It's Nazis and propaganda. They go hand in hand.
Underwhelming, or I guess it's further disappointing.
So it's sales.
The game's problem also is like a lot of the characters are bad, and the voice work sounds like fake, and a lot of the dialogue is incredibly poorly written, and just like jokes that don't land and stuff. It's just like whatever. There's a lot of stuff there that's just a mess. Colonel Sanders in the chat asks, is Hall of Meat in there? I'm assuming no. You're right, no. Hall of Meat is, as I understand it, it is a trademark that Thrasher holds.
Not for you,
and so when they did that in those games, it was part of like them having a deal with Thrasher magazine to use it. That's how I remember it.
It always seems to work in a lab.
Challenges that are basically the same thing, but worse. Where you are just jumping off of buildings and trying to land in dumpsters and hit trees and stuff. But like the impacts are not as crazy when you land. It's not like broken bones, NFL Blitz, Skull Go 13 zoom in, none of that is there.
So you got, that's a little scary.
And so it just furthers this feeling of like, here's this lifeless, way too clean environment where everyone just loves skating, man. Yay!
That's pretty good, though. Yeah.
With like no storyline to speak of, and like a lot of stuff like that where it just feels like it just feels like a game written by cops or something. Like it's really
like a mirror.
Uncool, I guess. I don't know. Does it feature any skaters? No. I think there are pro skaters that maybe do voices in the game, but
oh gosh. Oh,
I don't think so. I have not unlocked all of the tours, to be fair here. So, maybe there's something very late on, but I don't believe so. It's really, it's a bummer, and it's out now. Last little bit here, I guess take this with some fucking weird, this is probably nothing. But someone in the chat said it earlier, so I kind of looked into it. There are rumblings that Valve is about to announce something. There's rumblings that perhaps that they are about to announce whatever their next VR thing is. Perhaps later this week. There are, I guess, people who are known on YouTube for streaming VR stuff. And it seems like some number of them are in Seattle at the moment. For whatever reason. Are they going to Valve to see something? Are they? Who knows?
I didn't know if you'd like that.
But that has been the suggestion that perhaps that people are up at Valve seeing whatever Deckard is going to turn into, if they're going to call that the Steam Frame. I feel like Steam Frame was a name that people were thinking, oh, maybe that's going to be like the kind of refreshed Steam machine or something that has also been going around. But Deckard, the supposedly a standalone VR headset, has been something that has been talked about and maybe surfaced in some of the Steam updates and things a little bit here and there to lend some credence to some of that speculation. And so if you've got people here claiming that they're going to be posting videos on a Wednesday and some of this other, I don't know, there's random word going around. So entirely possible that we see something along those lines tomorrow or sometime in the near future. I don't really know. But I got to figure that if they're making a standalone VR headset, it's basically a Steam Deck with lenses, right?
Sydney, come get me an
Like it's,
applesauce for your mother, please.
If it's a fully standalone device, then it is something that is going to probably be leveraging very similar technology to what is in the Steam Deck. And that's what they would do. That's what makes sense to me anyway. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up what ends up coming out of that. Yeah, maybe it'll be a piece of cardboard that you can wrap around a Steam Deck and then strap it to your face. That would be pretty sweet.
You don't want to say
Really?
But they're what would they even put in that? Because I think we're talking about like the Steam Deck hardware. Like, would they put something more powerful than that in there? On one hand, you'd hope so, but also if they were going to make a more powerful device like that, then wouldn't you also want them to release an updated Steam Deck, which they have kind of said that they're not really looking to do in the exact near term because they're waiting for a more generational leap in technology to happen before they put that out? Maybe it ends up being the basic power of like a Steam Deck 1.5, or some of these Z2s, or what some of these other chips that are finding their ways into other handhelds. Maybe they go with something that is a little beefier than what's in the Steam Deck. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll kind of see. We'll see how all that goes.
Like Chicago, probably.
And if there's any truth to that, I suppose. And that's about it for the news. Why don't we get into some emails here? podcast@guard.bike is the email address. That is where you should be sending emails if you want to send them to me.
Hey, where's your glasses?
Where I will see them and take a look at them.
Please.
We have a handful that came in this morning that I have not looked at yet. Alex from Lowell writes in and says, you mentioned in a past episode that games just released, and I'm curious, what was the first game you remember releasing on a specific date? Did it feel like the industry was maturing when others caught on to the same practice? I was too young in the 90s to really pay attention, but I remember Metal Gear Solid being one of those big releases in my youth. It's probably Mortal Monday or Sonic Tuesday. It is probably the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but is actually, Mortal Monday was before that, right? So, that is probably the first one I remember. And I remember thinking like, oh, geez, it's crazy that they have a specific date and all this stuff. Like it because games didn't really have that. You would see games being reviewed in a magazine. Like you would get EGM and they'd have reviews of games and you go like, oh, I guess these games are coming out soon. But like you didn't know when your store was getting it. You didn't know, did other stores have it already? The internet was not robust enough for you to have the answer to that question either.
Have you noticed that on the pepperoni?
No.
And so, yeah, they're
like, no, this one actually
release dates are very hard to track around that time, like prior to that time. But certainly after that time as well, because most games still didn't have like locked down, this is when this is out type things. And there wasn't enough media and magazines and things, like there weren't enough things devoted to that for you to really know. Like music felt like it would just show up sometimes too. When Guns N' Roses put out Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 and did like a midnight opening for it, like it was like that album had a release date and time and everything. But if other albums and stuff had specific release dates, you didn't know them most of the time. Some independent record stores would have a wall and they'd write down, oh, here's when this album's out, or here's like you could look and see when something was out, but like it wasn't always obvious. Like I remember riding my bike to the music store and being like, oh my God, NWA has a new EP out. Holy shit. And Ice Cube has a solo album out. What the fuck is going on? And buying both of them at the same time.
So we have cultural standards around here.
Being very shocked to hear, well, apparently NWA broke up. Holy shit.
How much have you spent on it so far?
And yeah, so like music didn't really seem like you knew when that stuff was coming out then either, and
what, you think your Paris
games certainly were not were like less
little fun boys to hang
mature and figured out than music was at that time. So yeah, game releases were just like, when does the truck get here? I don't know. Some distribution center has a bunch of copies of Shove It the Warehouse game on their truck, and they're driving across the country, ruining lives one store at a time. When will the truck come to your town? Who knows?
I think a lot of that was the game.
That's just how a lot of that stuff was. I don't remember seeing specific release dates for games until much later in the 90s. The PlayStation, like by that time, I think, a couple of things happened, right? I mean, there was, like that stuff started to happen more and more, and the distribution started to be a little more buttoned up, and games started coming out at a more predictable rate, but also by the time we got to 96, 95, and, certainly by 97, you had websites covering video games, and part of the data that they wanted on their pages was like, when is this game out? And so you would go and you would ask Blizzard, when is Warcraft 2 coming out? When is this, you would start to ask more of those questions of different publishers, and you would get that information to put in your database. And so, that information started to spread kind of as the internet started to spread. And you would find pages like I always found like there would be ads in the back of magazines, Video Games, Computer Entertainment, Game Pro, EGM, the Trinity, if you will. And sometimes you would see these ads in the back that would have dates, if not dates, at least like months, because they would be selling, it'd be like some game retailer or distributor on, whatever, mail order. You'd call them up and buy a game, I guess. And they would have release date information there in their ad. And so that's the first like chunk of release date information I remember having. The rest of it would be like, oh, here's the Montgomery Ward Christmas catalog or whatever. Here's the Sears toy catalog, and here's what it had in it. And you're like, oh my God, these G.I. Joe vehicles are different colors than the ones that they normally sold. What the fuck? It's a fucking Sears exclusive, JCPenney exclusive, whoever it was. And then games would be kind of treated the same way of just like, yeah, we've got them in this catalog because we know they're coming out at this time. And so a lot of that information was weird. But as we got through into the mid 90s, that stuff would start to be buttoned up. Both because I think distribution became a little bit more serious and better, but also because there were places on the internet reporting on it on a national basis. And so suddenly you had a way for people to see this like national information in a way that like, you know, the newspaper doesn't say like, hey man, unless it was an ad for a game store in the newspaper, like they weren't reporting on video game release dates. And, you know, so like, that stuff was harder to come by.
Awesome.
And a lot of people just didn't even really want it all that much or need it all that much.
The Capri Suns.
You like the pouches better? The box.
And so yeah, I think that's how a lot of that stuff generally went. The stream seems to have dropped. I don't know why.
You know what's
the local
weird,
recording is still here, but now it's reconnecting.
Then when the pouches came out,
and now that it's reconnected, we are here yet again. I don't know what happened there.
It's a meme,
but we got a brief blip in the connection, but anyway, that's how release dates went. Is they were weird until they weren't, and I think that, you know, probably GameSpot and IGN, N64.com, whatever IGN was, Snowball, whatever IGN was at that time. I think those sites and other sites like it having pages with release dates on them and the rise of online sales and some of that, all of that kind of worked to further kind of codify the concept of a reliable release date. But it would take some time for it to get there.
Yep. Taco bacon.
Let's see here.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Eric from St. Louis writes in and says, on the bonus show,
well, I'm not,
which is a Patreon exclusive for that download, you were kind of lamenting what you would even do with a Mario Maker 3, and I got your answer. Leveraging the mouse support, you essentially take a new Mario Paint into it, and then people can put their custom artwork and music into their levels. Of course, they would need technology to watch for penises, but they seemingly conquered that evil, or good, with player artwork in the Splatoon lobbies.
Let's go.
All of that, plus the obvious new theme is for Wonder, and I think you're cooking. If you really wanted to do a Super Mario Wonder,
it wasn't just the
like motif in Super Mario Maker, you would need to be able to add Wonder effects to it. And how are you doing that? Are you adding like a limited number of Wonder effects that you can trigger, or well, you're not going to be able to just like build your own from scratch?
They're grinding that slot machine, dude. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't, that seems overly complicated, because then you're asking players like, oh, now you're going to have this Wonder effect that lets you run on the wall, so you need to account for your level that way. And then if you turn off the Wonder graphical motif, do they then make Wonder effects that work in the Mario 1 graphical tile set or whatever? I think that gets to be a little complicated. I think that gets to be a little overly complicated in some ways.
Look at this.
You're great, Holly.
Doing like allowing you to put your own artwork on the back wall of a stream, I think that could be fun. That there's potential there. Well, like, I don't know, like the thing I wanted was Super Mario 2, like the Super Mario USA, if you will. Pick up some vegetables and throw them. I thought that would have been like a fun addition. But that's so different than the other Mario games that you have to build kind of a different thing. One of the cool things about Mario Maker is that you could build a level and then go, actually, I want to change it to Mario World. I want to change it to Mario 3. I want to change it to and Mario 2 riding on enemies instead of bopping them. Like the gameplay becomes very different in a way that I think makes that a little trickier.
The door. Take us all to the camps because you're a gay game.
Dalton from Pittsburgh writes in as we're seeing some very strange bitrate fluctuation on the live stream right now, where it is suddenly using 4 times the bandwidth that it is supposed to be using, which I have the bandwidth for, but Twitch does not. And so I don't know. We're dropping a small handful of frames here. I'm not really sure what's going on here. I don't see any other.
But you're still a kid.
There should not be any other. Well, 2 things. One, there should not be any other dramatic network activity happening here on the network.
They use kids.
But also, I have enough bandwidth to handle that one way or the other.
A chance to straighten you out.
I don't know. That's a weird one. But
re-education is what they call it. Yeah, that word hasn't been used in a while.
Yes, it's shader stutter.
You got to get re-educated.
If you people at home would just set your settings right, you're trying to watch this 4K stream.
Tommy hippie woke
on your 4-year-old phone or computer.
Tommy hippie woke gay.
What the fuck do you expect?
Stop.
Smarten up, people.
What?
Dalton writes in and says, as you've got some kids now, have any of them shown any interest in Sanrio characters yet? Also, who is your favorite Sanrio character?
Wow.
I was always a Batsmaru kind of guy, I guess.
Up in counseling. Be like,
this is a big cinema roll house, to be honest with you. My son's birthday, my son just turned 4.
You get married?
He is now 4.
What, you gonna start farming babies now?
Which is crazy to think.
What?
He is such a big boy. Oh, he's such a big boy. And he doesn't listen to anybody. He doesn't listen to anybody. All of these kids, it turns out, are bad at listening. But he's gotten quite good at We Love Katamari, at least. Anyway, he had a party. We got a face painter. We had a face painter come in and paint faces.
Here, I'll finish that.
For his party. And the baby, she got a Hello Kitty. She got a Hello Kitty face painted on her that was pretty cool.
And yeah, you would do your.
So yeah, I don't know. I would say limited interest in Hello Kitty around here from all 3 of them.
So I think we're gonna get you a vanity.
But I don't know if they know enough about the full depth of the bench, the full roster, the full Sanrio. I don't know if they're like, well, Karopi's dope, and these other guys are fucking more. They're not there yet. Maybe they will be someday. But I got my son.
Don't have enough room in the bathroom as it is.
Fan Gamer. They make a bunch of T-shirts and stuff. Licensed.
Like you gotta have.
I guess that's the important thing. There's a lot of. If you want to find video game T-shirts, there are a lot of ways to go. But they do a bunch of licensed stuff, and they have a Katamari Damacy plush, a plush Katamari and the Prince.
You believe they're still
and they got magnets in one of the Prince's hands and feet, so it'll kind of stick to the ball a little better. I got him that, and that was a hit. He was big time into it, and he's got that in his bed now, and that went over pretty well. He also got this cool. It's a Hot Wheels thing.
Yeah,
it's a Hot Wheels dinosaur that is also a car carrier truck, and it's a dinosaur, and the dinosaur eats cars. And so if you, it kind of transforms a little bit where you flatten the whole thing out for when it's a truck, and then the dinosaur's mouth will just spin, and it will chew up cars, and it has a spot inside of it where the cars are stored, and then you can open up a flap in the back, and it poops all the cars out the back, and that's been very exciting. That pooping out the cars has been very exciting as well. And then you can raise it up into full standing dinosaur mode, and then there's a little 2-car track on its back where like they race down, and there's a little notch where the first car hits the notch, and that makes a trap door fall on the other side. So the first car rides off the back to safety, and the other one falls through a trap door and dies. And it's fucking cool. And also it has batteries, so the whole time you're pushing it, it's making growling noises And also it farts.
So yeah,
I'm convinced that it's meant to be a fart noise. You can't really tell out of the gate, but like it'll just sometimes just go like it's you know, it's burping or farting because it eats so many cars. It's fucking neat, man. The only problem is if you're trying to eat cars that are like laying down on the you know, on the ground or whatever, the car will roll as you're trying to eat it with the dinosaur, and it's sort of tricky. You kind of need to keep one hand on the car while it's eating the car. It's neat. It's fucking neat. I didn't have cool. I mean, I had some pretty cool shit, but I didn't have cool shit like that. Steve from Royal Oak, Michigan, writes in and says, just the other day I realized that Acclaim, the video game publisher, is spelled with 2 C's. Am I crazy for thinking that the logo says Acclaim with 2 K's? That's what I thought it was for decades. A lot of people think that. There are a lot of people that try to spell Acclaim with K's instead of C's, and I don't understand. Like, maybe I've just been doing this for too long, but like I don't think that I ever thought that Acclaim was spelled with 2 K's. There are still some people that try to. I mean, the logo. I don't think the logo looks especially like K's. Like a little bit, yes, like a little bit, but not that much. But yes, you are certainly not alone in that. Braden from Ontario writes in with an important question that I think, you know, like I can't fault Braden for not knowing this, but like, you know, listening to the song Bad Bad Man by John Cena featuring Bumpy Knuckles, I just wanted to know whatever happened to Bumpy Knuckles. And why didn't John Cena use Bad Bad Man as his theme for his heel run? So Bumpy Knuckles is also known as Freddie Fox, and he's been around for years, and he put out something not super recently, but I want to say it was like probably 2018, 2019 or something. He had something out. He did a feature on a De La Soul track. Like that dude's been around. Like Freddie Fox, like Bumpy Knuckles is legit, man. It was like that was when I heard that John
I saw an
Cena
Ace Hardware
had Bumpy Knuckles on his record. I was like, oh
no, it didn't
right.
look like cheap.
Now we're fucking talking.
And I was like, oh,
now we're getting somewhere. It was very exciting. But yeah, he's probably still around doing something. He's maybe getting up there in years. I don't know, but he had something. I'm going to say over the last 5 to 7 years, like he was certainly known for a lot more than just being on that John Cena record. As for why didn't John Cena use Bad Bad Man as his theme for his heel run, I don't know. I don't watch WWE anymore. It's been glorious, really. But it's because that song is too good and people would cheer it. I mean, if you're trying to be a bad guy in the kind of classic wrestle-brained, carny sense, you can't do anything that people can latch on to. Like, that's why when you are working as a bad guy, you don't do big, flashy, flippy moves in the traditional, again, the aging and you know, in some ways, ancient ways that wrestling had been done for decades and decades. You would, you know, if you wanted to be perceived as a bad guy, you would not put a cool song like Bad Bad Man on as you were walking out. I think they just had him walk out to silence, didn't they? You know, like it would have been interesting to have, because there was supposedly some song years ago that he recorded for when they thought they were going to make him a bad guy, and that maybe he would switch to that this time and people would finally get to hear it, or, you know, whatever. But like, you know, they ended up, as I understand it, going in that kind of old school direction of like, no, we're not going to have anything for you to latch onto. And guess what? It sucked. Like, like it's just, you know, like seeing clips of it, and, you know, as someone who's not watching the weekly television or really keeping up on it, you know, you still kind of encounter some of this stuff. And just everything I saw of it was just like, this is fucking terrible. Was this Travis Scott here? What the fuck? And then they just walked it all back, right? They just went like, oh, well, that sucked. He's a good guy again, or whatever they did. Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. Like, they seem like they have no fucking idea what they're doing over there anymore. They had like a brief period where it was like, this feels fresh and new. And then it seems like it just fucking fell apart on them. I don't know. Let's see. Paul from Cutoff Right Center says, I recently picked up an arcade stick to play retro shooters. I enjoy using it so much, I've been using it as my main controller for Retro Arch. It's making me appreciate the NES and PC Engine libraries. 2 buttons, that's all the developers had to work with. These consoles have amazing games, some of them quite complex, and they made it work with 2 buttons. SNES and GBA games are a pain in the ass with the arcade stick because of the shoulder buttons. To summarize, the NES was and is the perfect console. The accessibility really blew the doors wide open and enabled anyone to play. So I would argue, while I tend to agree with you, I would also argue that the lack of buttons on an NES controller led to a lot of situations where you needed to bring the start and select buttons into it, or have situations where you're holding down a button and pressing down, or, you know, like multi-function inputs in some genres of game, right? Or you would have to have overly cumbersome menus to account for the lack of buttons and so on. But you're not wrong. I mean, there is something to the idea of like, hey, you know, like, there's not a lot of buttons on this thing, and the games are, you know, like, yeah, arcade games generally of the era didn't have a ton of buttons on them either. You know, you'd have 3. Well, Double Dragon had a punch, a kick, and a jump. I think 3 in a lot of ways is ideal.
Love you, mother.
As much as the 6-button Genesis controller felt great in the hand, I think that
we got some work to put in.
Having 3 buttons on the Genesis was kind of awesome too. But it didn't have a select button, so in some ways it kind of just evens out, where you've got 3 buttons, 3 action buttons, and a start button, or 2 action buttons, a start and a select. Just chopping things up a slightly different way, I guess, if we think about it.
Hey, pass that bud.
Nigel writes in, the PSP was so much better than the DS, in my opinion. It dominated handheld gaming for that generation. Pokemon games were tired, might have just been my age growing out of them. And the PSP became my music and video player, along with being my messenger machine for chatting with friends because I was a teen and couldn't afford a mobile phone. It was also a console I have so many amazing memories of, with 5 dozen different exclusives. It was basically a portable PS2. And we're now in an era where people crave to carry their PC with them, so why couldn't Sony follow it up? On paper, the Vita was perfect. It brought in a touchscreen, added 3G for mobile online, and included a second stick for the newly adopted standard of dual-stick controls, which bizarrely only became cemented after Call of Duty 4. It's debatable. Long into the PS2's life, developers were still trying to do the GoldenEye thing. It couldn't just be a case of mobile, as the inferior 3DS ended up being a hit after its first few years of failure. Was it simply underpowered hardware? The PSP had hardware a decade ahead of its time, whereas the Vita used the same SoC as the iPad 2 and aged fast. So it couldn't do ports like the PSP could. Was it the name? Should it have been called the PSP 2 and been backwards compatible? Was it Sony giving up when Nintendo didn't? And should Sony make a PSP 3 now?
Should rush to the area.
Looking like a G. Come on, roll with me. I'm gonna put in some work.
So I think that the PSP's problem is really dependent on what other platforms you owned at the time and where you wanted to play your games. I think of the PSP as like, you got ports of PlayStation 2 games, but they were often reduced. And they were trying to be full-fledged console games as opposed to focusing on the strengths of being a handheld. I think that's the thing that Nintendo figured out over the course of the DS. And a lot of developers eventually kind of followed suit and realized, like, oh, you know, these need to be platforms for, like, short sessions. You know, people are opening it up on a bus and playing it for 10 minutes and closing it and going and doing something else. It's not... It's not something that people are going to sit down and play an 8-hour game on, a 15-hour game on it, or whatever. And I think the problem with the PSP library is that you eventually had a lot of developers that were just like, fuck it, we're just going to port our existing, like, here's Thug 2
Get out of my way.
remix, or like here's an adjusted port of a PS2 game, and you were either happy with that because you weren't playing it on PS2 already, or you already played it on PS2 and you're like, this is useless to me, And so it came down to, different developers taking advantage of the hardware in different ways. The PSP was really cool. I don't know. It felt great in the hand. The screen was great at the time. It really just stood out. It was a very striking device. The UMDs were neat.
I
like the PSP quite a lot, but I think ultimately Sony didn't really put its best feet forward on any portable, Like there are some really good first-party PSP games, and I think that stuff sort of swept out to sea a little bit over time. The Vita started there. With the Vita, it felt like Sony never brought its full development resources and full level of support over to that hardware out of the gate. And so with the first party, what it needed to be, third party just never really gave a shit. And and at the time, people were like, "Oh, we should be making games for phones," And so the Vita felt very out of step with where gaming was potentially going and where audiences were going. I guess more correctly to say that audiences were going in that direction.
What you saying? Blast while I get out. Leave some for me. Time, fool.
And so I think that the Vita, like the portable console, I think the portable only device needed more. And so the 3DS or the DS, same deal. It's this thing. It's got two screens. You're not going to have that on a TV. It's got a touch screen. You're not going to really have that on a TV. And the 3DS has 3D, which is really a fun gimmick. But I think if you're like me, you turn it off after the first. After you played a lot of Ridge Racer, you're like, all right, that's good. I'm good. And it kind of went on from there. The Vita has no. And people will debate this all day long, but I don't think there's like a single Vita game that you go, here it is, the game that here's the first party, here's the thing that launched with the Vita, here's this big deal game, it's like, here's what's out on the Vita. Whereas on the PSP, the PSP was carried a lot in Japan by stuff like Monster Hunter because that was so popular on the PSP. And so you'd have all these stories about how the PSP was so big in Japan, because people were playing Monster Hunter on the train and all this other stuff, and so worldwide it had a bigger impact than maybe it did in the U.S.
That's going in my retirement fund.
And so the Vita just feels like a game like a device that launched at the end of an era, and people had already moved on, and Sony kind of limped in to begin with, and never really put its best minds onto the Vita software problem. Unless you count Gio Corsi, which he, there for a while there, Vita games were happening largely because of him doing the work to get third parties to care about the Vita. I think that, the Sony never really had its heart in it at that point, and I do think that the PSP was a different time, and I just feel like the things moved on, and Sony never really felt like they were behind the Vita.
No, that's a strong algorithm right there.
And that's the Vita's biggest
problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But you're right that now people do want a device that can play full-fledged games, right? Like we talk about Steam Decks and Switch 2, and you look at the games that are on Switch. Like a wide variety of games came on Switch, but a lot of it is, indie games that were popular on the PC, and Nintendo's big first-party stuff and third-party games here and there. And now you got like Cyberpunk on the Switch 2 and Street Fighter 6 and all this other stuff that. These are full-fledged console games. Like Borderlands 4 is going to ship. Will Borderlands 4 be less of a boondoggle than when Borderlands was on the Vita?
A lot of forms. There's a slight reason here.
Because paper.
We'll see. I guess the thing to think about, as everyone, because now we're on the Switch 2. And it's pretty similar to the Switch One. And now you've got an Xbox-branded device that is similar in nature, you know, like in its own way.
What's poppin', bro?
Coming along later this year, handheld PCs.
No bother, bitch.
Becoming more and more of a thing. In theory, we'll see. They'll be very expensive. We'll see if they catch on. But like there is a push. There is some sort of industry push in that direction to, you know, make these handhelds happen. All of the new PlayStation rumors, and then they've, you know, I think they've even alluded to it, if I'm not mistaken. But like,
This is just
there
so me
will
round
be
here.
a new Sony handheld. But instead of it being a dedicated handheld with its own lineup and its own software, they're going to make something that runs existing PlayStation software in some capacity. You know, that it'll come out alongside or in the same time frame as the PlayStation 6, and that they will have some sort of device that will run PlayStation 6 games, but be a handheld.
Watch yourself.
Nice to meet you.
And it won't be as powerful as a
Can you
PS5,
take me
but it'll
home
somehow do that
now?
anyway.
I've known a lot of homeboys, Carl.
You know, whatever shape that ends up taking, it really does seem like that Sony is moving into this space as well. What do you think Nintendo does from here? Because someone in chat, when we were talking about the Virtual Boy, the plastic shell for the Virtual Boy, someone was like, do you think a Switch 3 will fit into it?
Bitch.
I put it to you, dear listener, that I don't think they'll do this a third time. Switch 2 coming out just now. You know, what do we got? If they do well with it, we're looking at another 7-8 years
CJ,
before they got to
so
roll out
me.
something next. Another 7 or 8 years of your competitors, you know, getting into the space that you've been in and dominating in. I think that's a prime time for Nintendo to say, oh, we're doing something completely different. You know? And they'll do their OLED screen and they'll do their Switch 2 Lite. Yeah, sure, they'll iterate on this hardware, but I mean, like, generationally speaking,
Judge of character.
I'm listening.
when Nintendo moves over to a whole new device, what do you think that device is? Is it a high-powered, high-end console? Is it the screaming, fastest GPU in the world? They just go hard the other way and say, plug this box into your fucking television and play fucking Mario on it, you asshole. Like, is it the most powerful, crazy? You know, like, who knows? I'm going to say probably not that. But, you know, there's a lot of years for a lot of technology to spring into existence and potentially be usable in the mainstream. You know, who knows, right? I don't know. Yes, a 3-screen handheld, Pat. You've got it. What would you even do with a third screen? I mean, you could do, you know, for local 2-player games, one person goes to the left side of it, the other side. Yeah, you could. There's a lot of different stuff you could do, I guess. But yes, Discord, a third screen, dedicated chat screen. It's a very Nintendo-like solution, but it's emoji only because it's just Nintendo's solution. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, but it's interesting to think about I mean, a handful of reasons, really, you know? Like, what do you do when the competitive space is a lot different? Because when the Switch came out, no one was making anything like this. This idea of a hybrid console handheld thing was not a thing. And then, you know, Valve came into the space, and it's hard. It feels weird to even call it the space because it really just feels like that they're doing separate things in a lot of ways. You know, it doesn't necessarily feel like that the Steam Deck is infringing on Nintendo's territory, but that's technically true. I think when you get Sony putting out a portable PlayStation that is also part of the same hardware family as its console or whatever, like, that starts to become a different story because that's something that they do worldwide, right? I know they've put the Steam Deck out in Japan, and, you know, like, they've made their inroads, and I think they've done really well making those inroads and kind of building the case for it. But right now, when you look at how the industry is right now, I think if and when PlayStation has a similar device on the market on shelves in Japan, I think that becomes a very different story for Nintendo, and as they think about their future and what it looks like and whatever else, right? So we'll see. But I think, like Sony has never been, and this is a great way to solve the problem of Sony's handheld hardware. I think the PSP suffered from this to a lesser extent than the Vita did, but it's a similar situation where your A-list developers are not making games for that thing. Now, developers became A-list PSP developers over the course of that, Ready Dawn, like whatever. Like there were definitely like a lot of big, cool PSP exclusive games where they're like, oh, okay, well, this is not the God of War game that you're playing on PlayStation 2, but we made something over here that's actually in some sick way better and crazier, and they ported some of those back to PS2 in some cases. Nuts. When they hit upon some of those games working out as well as they did. But like Sony was not good at splitting its efforts. Nintendo was pretty good when they had a handheld and a console. They were pretty good at supporting both. But oftentimes it was like different franchises and different takes on franchises, and they were really good at making games that were appropriate for each device. They made console games for their console, they made handheld games for their handheld. In some ways, I feel like that's what we've lost in the Switch. When you take all of Nintendo's development resources and apply it to one platform, we sort of lost a lot of the handheld-minded first-party games. And we're starting to see, like Rhythm Heaven is coming out. Like you're starting to see snippets of that coming back to life nowadays. But like on the GBA, there were so many great first-party games that just, some of them never came out over here and whatever else. But like Nintendo made great games for that thing, and for the Game Boy before it, and Game Boy Color, and for the DS, of course. Like there was just, they had that mentality of making handheld games, and they were making them great. And now the Switch, you don't really see that smaller tier. I mean, they would come across as smaller tiers of games. I mean, in some ways they would, compete with some of the indie games that are available on the Switch, and tons of third parties are making games like that all the time on that platform. But yeah, man, I miss that. I miss that part of Nintendo in a lot of ways. And so that's why when they announced a new Rhythm Heaven, it was so exciting, because it was like, oh, okay, this is the cool shit, the cool weird shit that I want to see happening more often, But yeah, it's a very weird time, I think, on that front, right? When we think about the future of that form factor and I think even just the future of the Switch right now, the Switch 2, like things feel weird. I don't know if you feel that way, but like there's something about the weird dev kit situation where some studios are having trouble getting dev kits and other studios are very much not having trouble getting dev kits. We've had some people write in, and there's been stories going around coming out of Gamescom, and it doesn't seem like any of that stuff is fully accurate. It's a lot of people guessing at what a problem is and not necessarily knowing. But there's a situation, where some studios that you would, it was when the Warframe developers were out there saying they didn't have dev kits. You're like, that's crazy. Like with how big Warframe has been and all of that, like it just seems like something that should not be a problem. But here we are, right? And the longer that takes, the longer it takes for those games to come out. So it's sort of weird. I don't know. I feel like some of that stuff just feels a little strange. And have the Warframe developers have since confirmed that they got dev kits? Good. See, all it takes is like, not every developer can get away with this, especially with a company like Nintendo. You rattle their cage too much, you're just as likely to get the opposite. But if you're in the right place at the right time with the right argument, you can get taken care of. pretty quick, I bet, by saying like, hey, it sure looks like you guys don't know what you're doing over there and are not sending out dev kits. Have some dev kits. Fuck.
You fool!
Yeah, I don't know. Weird times. Let's see. John from Greece writes in. Has been listening since 2003. I have bought every single console that's been released since 1995, including an Ouya. I'm skipping whatever the next Xbox is. In my mind, Nintendo consoles are there to play Nintendo exclusives. PlayStation is if you want to play almost everything but don't want to get a PC, either because it might be more expensive or because you're afraid of settings. I don't know, man. Xbox has the strategy of releasing everything everywhere all at once. So what is an Xbox? A Game Pass delivery mechanism? According to Microsoft, everything's an Xbox anyways. I could just play some Game Pass somewhere else. When everything is an Xbox, nothing is an Xbox. That's deep. Personally, I was super excited for the Series X, and now it's collecting dust. It might be the first time I unplug and retire a current-gen console. What gives? Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, I think that is something that is going to impact different players differently depending on how and where they play their games. There are people that are in certain use cases where, the strategy for Xbox makes a ton of sense, and Game Pass ends up enabling them to play way more games than they would otherwise, and all of that. But if you're out there and you're purchasing every console and you own every console, like I am not in an entirely dissimilar boat here. Whereas I am sitting in a room here with two PCs, a Steam Deck, an Xbox Series X, a PlayStation 5 Pro, a Switch 2, and two Switch 1s over there. And I guess that's about it. I don't have a lot of reasons to turn on an Xbox because those third-party games all exist on PC, and the first-party stuff does as well. And because Microsoft is shipping its stuff day and date on PC, the PC is more powerful than the Series X. Nice. So I would rather play games there. In situations where games are coming to other platforms exclusively, I have more reason to turn on a Switch 2. For better or worse, right? It would be great to play Donkey Kong on a PC and have no slowdown and have it run at a higher resolution. It would be great to, sure, that's just not the reality of where things are, right? And so you need to have a Switch 2 if you want to play those games. If you want to play Ghost of Yotei anytime soon, then you will need to own a PlayStation 5 of some of some form, right? Do I think that that's best for long-term business and best for whatever else? I don't know. What's the trade-off on we need a reason to get people to buy these consoles versus we just need to sell as much software as possible, right? The day-and-date strategy of Microsoft of putting all these games on PC, I think, and in some cases other platforms, but generally speaking, PC, I think it makes a ton of sense when you take into account that the Xbox was already not doing great in the market. In a situation where the Switch 2 is selling just fine and the PlayStation 5, they're happy with where the sales of it are of that right now, they can be in that place of okay, buy a Switch 2 or hey, in 6 months we'll put this out on PC. So if you're willing to wait for Ghost of Yotei and you're not in our ecosystem and you're not willing to spend $800 with $7 whatever for a PlayStation 5 Pro or whatever the 550 whatever it is 500 then you can wait and play it on PC. Sony gets to kind of have it both ways right now because they're doing well enough on hardware that they can afford to do it. But if that bottom drops out and, as prices of hardware keep going through the fucking roof, fewer people are going to be able to afford a PlayStation 5. And you have a situation where people are going to well, if I'm going to spend that kind of money on a gaming device, I might as well just get a PC because it can play this, and I can do Game Pass and the PlayStation stuff, and really you just kind of lose out on the Nintendo games. But I'm with you, John from Greece, in that I don't find a lot of reasons to turn on my Xbox Series X. Now, I will grant you that not only do I own all these platforms, but I am also in a unique position where a lot of games just show up, right? And so, that impacts what I play and where I play it on top of things being the way they are. So I'm not saying that I am a perfect, here's how it works for me. That's just, the weird part about what I do for a living, right? But yeah, there are not a lot of great reasons to turn on an Xbox if you are in that situation. However, Game Pass is still a heck of a deal. And so if you didn't own any of these things and you had to buy something, the price, the affordability of an Xbox compared to a high-end PC or whatever, there's that's something worth considering, I suppose. But where you net out on that, I think is highly individualized, and there's a lot of different wrinkles to those use cases that are going to lead to different answers for different people. I think the thing we're running into more, and this is something that I've seen some writing about this, that I guess I thought that we would be a little further along on this, but it's something that it feels like needs to happen before whatever first party Xbox hardware comes out or is announced or whatever. But it's this idea of Xbox Play Anywhere. And that is the feature that lets you buy a game once and play it on both an Xbox and a PC. And in theory, I guess in the cloud as that continues to be built out and that feature set continues to grow. And that a lot of larger third-party games are you go to a large third party. You go to John Madden and you say, hey, John, we think it would be cool if when people bought a copy of John Madden's football on the Xbox, that they were also able to play the PC version of the game. And they say that, and then John Madden looks at them. He puts down the tongs and lets the turducken roast for a while. And he says, get the fuck out of my face. Boom! Because EA would much rather sell you 2 copies of a game than give you one for free. Right? And so I think when we talk about these larger, if you're Warner Brothers, are you going to go oh, sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll sell 2 versions of Mortal Kombat instead of, yeah, sure, we'll just give one of those away for free. They're like, that's preposterous. That's crazy. What? Are you high? Are you out of your mind? And so larger third parties, with some exception, are not getting into the Xbox Play Anywhere ecosystem. You're seeing more and more smaller developers, indie developers, like that sort of stuff is occurring. But EA would either rather, EA will happily sell you a subscription to its subscription service if you would like to play multiple versions of the John. And most of, I don't think most of EA's games are not cross progression, cross play. There's cross play more and more, but a lot of that stuff is not the way that an Xbox Play Anywhere game can work, with all of that stuff being seamless. And that stuff is really neat when it works. But I also think that the minute, if they're going to start selling a PC, but they still want to have the ability to run old console games from the previous generations of Xbox, I don't know how you get away. I don't know how you pull that off. I don't know how you put that by a lot of these third parties and get them to sign on for it. So I feel like that's kind of a unanswered question around a lot of this stuff, is that Xbox Play Anywhere probably needs to be a much more robust and supported system by a much, much larger percentage of third-party developers for them to be able to continue to make that transition into whatever the future of Xbox is. And maybe this eventually gets to a point where, since it's all a PC anyway, Play Anywhere is a weird misnomer, because all of these things are just running Windows anyway, and so it'll run across the board no matter what. You just have to put your PC version into the Xbox store, the Windows store, whatever it is, in order to appear on all these platforms. And I don't know, some bigger third-party games are still skipping that storefront entirely, right? It's not The support situation is not automatic the way you think it might be when you really dig into it. Mikey from Australia writes in and says, have you played any 2XKO? I guess that is the right way to pronounce it. It is not double KO, which would have been a more fun name. Anyway, Mikey says, personally, I'm having a lot of fun with it, but it's way more systems heavy than I was expecting, and I haven't even touched some of the more bizarre stuff like duo play or the Juggernaut fuse that lets you ignore all the tag mechanics. It's rare for a studio as big as Riot to enter the fighting game market, so I'm interested in your thoughts on the game and how you think it will be received in the market. Yeah, I guess more and more people got invited to 2XKO. I got an email from Riot last week from, I must have signed up for that beta at some point years ago. I don't even know when. And it was like, download 2XKO now. This is your Riot name. And it had what looked like it might have been my Riot. I don't know. I was like, oh, I guess I did sign up for a Riot account at some point. Because I guess I did play Valorant for about 45 minutes. I installed League of Legends once and never played an actual game because I'm good. And so, yeah, I don't know. I downloaded 2XKO and played a little bit of it. And I spent more time being mad at having like the Riot Vanguard icon in my tray. And if the service doesn't start when your system launches, then you have to reboot in order to play a Riot game. And like, it was just like, this sucks. The whole experience of the way their anti-cheat exists on systems is awful. Like, this is a miserable experience. And I was like, I kind of, like, I went through the training in 2XKO, and my first thought after seeing all that was like, I should uninstall this shit. I don't like having this here. I don't like having this installed. It feels gross. And so that is my main thought about 2XKO, is that I think their anti-cheat looks like shit. And it is like intrusive in a way that I was like, I don't think I want to have to consider this. There's plenty of anti-cheat out there and whatever else, but like, you're telling me I need to reboot because your anti-cheat needs to be running at boot. I think my response to that is get fucked. So I only played a couple of matches of it, and my feelings on 2XKO are that I don't like tag games. And I know they've got, after you pick your two characters, you kind of pick a thing, and that'll be like, oh, you can actually just turn off the tagging in favor of giving turning your second character into a more fully featured assist character. My least favorite things in fighting games, though, are tag games and assist characters. And so, like, they've built this game around mechanics that I'm already kind of not super into. And it's a bunch of characters that I don't know where any of them, they're all League of Legends characters, I think. I don't know who any of these people are. I don't especially care about who any of these people are. And so I didn't have there was no one for me to immediately latch onto. It played okay. It's not great on a gamepad with analog triggers, I'll say, because it uses the analog triggers for your specials by default. And so it's like light, medium, heavy, and then like a tag button on the face. And then you're using the L2 and R2 and sometimes both of them together for your specials. And I thought that didn't feel great. And, having the big squishy triggers, you could remap it, obviously. You could hook up a fight stick is probably the right answer there. But like, I didn't especially love the way it controlled in that sense. And as someone who is not super into tag games, I did not find there to be too much for me there. And it just feels like, I don't know, Rising Thunder, the game that, before these people got bought and absorbed into Riot a zillion years ago, it feels like it's just got a lot of systems and stuff. And, here's a push block that's also a tag if you tap the button again. And, you kind of use your assist character to kind of get you out of a situation. Like there's a lot of stuff like that in there that just feels like, I don't know, Rising Thunder felt like it was meant to be maybe a little more, I don't want to necessarily say beginner friendly, but it was something that was like, they had stripped it. They had produced a game that really got you down to the mind games a lot faster than what this feels like, because this is, like this has auto combos and you can kind of make your own, there's something in there where you can turn, called pulse, and you turn that on and off. Like I wasn't super clear on what that system was. But yeah, I don't know. Like it looked okay. It was flashy in some ways, but it was just like I just don't. I'm not finding anything. I'm not feeling a pull from it at all. I'm looking at it and going like, okay, yeah, you made a tag game. It's like I already kind of don't want to deal with this stuff. Like even though you've made the inputs more simple or whatever, it still doesn't feel right. And just doesn't really seem like what I'm looking for out of a fighting game. So yeah, I don't know. I had forgotten that I installed that until reading this email just now. I was like, oh right, yeah, I guess I do have that, don't I? Did I play Marvel Tokon? I did not get into the Marvel Tokon beta or whatever, so I have not really spent any time with that. I saw people that I trust their thoughts on fighting games being extremely not into what Marvel was doing. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see how that one pans out, but it sounds like they're making some very weird choices in Marvel that we'll see. But yeah, like not really into assist characters and not really into tag games. So 2XKO, not really doing it for me. Let's see here. Bill wrote in to ask, is Windows 10 end of service the biggest loss of game-capable hardware in history? And he says, like many other people, I imagine, I have a Windows 10 PC that I don't know what to do with after security updates stop in a little over a month from now. That's October 14th, by the way. This machine can play 90% of the games I own on Steam. Wow. I played through all of Elden Ring on it multiple times, but it is not Windows 11 compatible. I'm lucky enough to have a newer PC, but this is still really leaving a bad taste in my mouth. Intellectually, I know it's apples and oranges, but any talk of Xbox's devotion to backwards compatibility really rings hollow when they expect me to just dump a machine that can run virtually every game I own in a ditch. My questions are, with the Steam hardware survey showing that older PCs are the norm, what impact do you think Windows 10 end of service will have on gaming?
You're dead, computer.
Is this the biggest termination of service of game-capable hardware in history? And what would you suggest I do with this machine? It's an i5 4670 with a 1080 in it.
Isn't that weird?
Well, Bill, I guess the thing I would say is, like, there's nothing that's going to make that thing stop working.
Talk about Blade Runner, bro. Blade Runner, bro. Your time is up.
It's not like October 15th, you're going to turn on your machine and it's just going to, like, smoke's going to pour out of it like it was a fucking Mission Impossible briefing. It's not just going to,
your model has been retired,
like,
bro.
Told you needed to upgrade,
Throw
stupid.
It in the trash.
Like, you'll still be able to use
it. That doesn't matter. Throw it in the trash. Jesus Christ. Wow.
We'll see, right? I mean, what sort of exploits will people come up with for Windows 10?
Fake world.
Like once it is going to stop getting critical security updates to keep it secure.
Shit just
I would think, and again, attack surface being what it is, like, who knows? But if you were to take that machine and only use it for gaming, and you're like, okay, this thing boots to Steam Big Picture. I don't pop a web browser on this thing. I don't, like, there's no server software running on it that is exposing ports to the internet, the open internet.
They're
like
dead,
there's a lot of
They're
stuff
dead.
like that
they have no life in them.
that if you're not doing those sorts of things, you would be less likely to attract malware or whatever. But malware is tricky, and you never know. Like when you go look at like what is it, Samba version 1, SMB1, how exploitable that is in a very scary way. But you put it behind a sound enough firewall, you put it behind it, you make sure all the ports are as wrapped up on it as you can get. There may also be a situation where, other antivirus and malware people, I'm sure that they will continue to sell subscriptions or what have you, for Windows 10 machines as they can. We'll see what happens with driver updates, right? Like how much longer will NVIDIA support? I think they did say that they're not looking to support Windows 10 for much longer, right? That NVIDIA is looking to kind of move on. So you could move on that way, or find yourself a nice Linux install that is gaming focused. I don't know. Like, I know a lot of the kind of SteamOS based flavors of Linux out there are expecting AMD hardware in a lot of cases, but is it Pop OS or Bazite? They're like there's some out there that are definitely like better at handling NVIDIA GPUs than others from the last read-ups I did on it. But you could always dual boot Linux on it and see how that works out for you. And maybe there'll be some games that won't run right for anti-cheat reasons or whatever, but maybe Bazite Bazite has an NVIDIA image. Okay, so there's an NVIDIA, there's a flavor, some variant of Bazite that will work with NVIDIA stuff. So maybe that ends up being a viable path to go down, and then you're just getting away from Windows entirely. Again, that'll prevent you from playing like a Destiny 2 or Call of Duty or Battlefield or 2XKO, but you maybe weren't going to play those on a 1080 anyway. So if it was something you were already looking to play older games on in the first place, I bet a nice Bazite install or something like some gaming focused flavor of Linux would probably work really well for you. Obviously it's easy to say that without sitting down and actually doing it. And, like your mileage may vary depending on what games you want to play and what maybe you've got some weird motherboard that just doesn't like, there's a billion things that could happen between here and there. But a lot of that stuff is relatively well sorted by now. Like, you certainly have an opportunity there to take this thing and throw Linux on it and just keep using it as a gaming machine. You said that you already have a newer machine, so you could keep Windows on that one for whatever your Windows needs are, and go that route. It's not super difficult. It's easy to test out too. Like, it's very easy to like get a bootable USB image or dual boot a PC or whatever to get Linux up and running on it, as long as you've got
weird.
Enough hard drive space to handle that. I would probably look into that. That sounds like a fun project, honestly. If I had a machine that, like the machine I have behind me is perfectly, the one with the 4090 in it is perfectly capable of running Windows 11 and it's fine. But there's a part of me that kind of wants to throw Linux on it anyway. Just to have something to fuck around with. Sometimes you just need something to fuck around with. You just need a fucking weird project that you can break and reformat over and over again and go, I don't know, man, shit. Like, sometimes that's just fun. But yeah, you could set up a dual boot thing. And then if you eventually come to realize that you really like that dual booting scenario, then you could further invest in that regard. Let's see. Some more people wrote in discussing the Borderlands of music. A lot of people saying Offspring. I think we decided, after a few people, both on Blue Sky and via email, wrote in suggesting that Green Day is the Borderlands of music. And I think there's something to that in terms of like, yes, early Green Day is quite good. And then at some point they kind of became a sick parody of themselves and wanted to be taken much more seriously than they maybe deserved to. And they had one really good and then they did a Broadway play. That's actually that's a pretty decent choice. Let's see here. Grant writes in and says Square Pusher or Aphex Twin. I don't know that I have enough data to make that call right now. Every so often I go, I should listen to some more Aphex Twin and sit down and listen to a bunch of it and go, okay. Like, I don't hate this the way that I did in the 90s, maybe, but, like, I don't... All right. Square Pusher, I'm probably slightly less familiar with than even Aphex Twin, but they've never really been... they've never really been in my wheelhouse, per se, and so I've never really... people in chat are debating this Green Day thing. I mean, I think when you take the Green Day catalog, my initial thought was that like Green Day is actually too good for this.
Let's roll, homie. Fam.
But also,
come on, dude.
I think Green Day covers the quality like really well. And if anything, early Green Day is much better than Borderlands 1. That's where maybe it breaks a little bit because everything from basically like if you take Dookie and everything before it. Green Day is fucking amazing. And then everything after Dookie is not. Like American Idiot is like, it's cool that they pulled it off, and those aren't necessarily bad songs.
Get us out of here, CJ.
But then what American Idiot did to Green Day, when you look at everything that came out after, you just go, okay. Some of this stuff is...
We done, homie. Get us out of here.
If you want to listen to... I recommend going and getting... Go and listen to The Network, honestly. Go and listen to... Go get yourself a copy of Money Money 2020. The first part 1, part 2, the follow-up they did to it is not...
Want to get bucked?
Not as good. But The Network... That Network album, which has spoilers, Green Day they are members of the Network. That Network album, Money Money 2020, is fucking awesome. It is so fucking good.
That's mine.
Anyway, the takeaway here is I should at some point probably spend some time listening to more Square Pusher than I have. I don't have a huge knowledge of the catalog, but what I've listened to is like it's fine. In fact, when I'm a little more, I would say, a little more ambivalent of just like, this is extremely well made, and I don't have a connection. I just don't really have a connection to it.
Give me that money.
For whatever reason, that just never, I was not into that style of music when that stuff was coming out. And in the years ahead, it was just like, I came around a little bit just with a more open, being more open to electronic music in general. But yeah.
What
Vince
the
from Philly
fuck
right
is happening right now, dude? What is going on?
Because after being FPGA/Mr. Curious for a while, I pre-ordered one of these. The PlayStation 1-esque shell sold me. I'm getting pretty excited, but I'm worried I'm going to be falling into the retro tink upscaler rabbit hole within a year. So the Superstation is, this guy, he made a dockable, like a mod for the Switch Lite that makes it dockable, which is insane. And he's making something called the Mr. Pi, which is like not a great name, but it is basically Mr. equivalent hardware. It is compatible with the Mr. But it's significantly cheaper than cobbling together all the parts yourself, which is super appealing. Because I found a receipt for a Mr. that I bought a while, like 6 years, like I mean, was it 6 years? Maybe like 5 or 6 years ago that I bought my first Mr. And it was like $500 or something. It was a lot of money. But this, he's selling these kind of Mr. equivalent devices for like $200, $135 or something. Like they're super cheap. Anyway, he's doing a thing called the Super Station, which is meant to look like a PlayStation. It will take real discs. It will have different video outs on it, but it is still effectively a Mr. in a lot of ways. And it's cool. So yes, I pre-ordered one. I don't know why.
That's what I'm talking about. You literally put a cop.
I have two Misters here, in fact, but it looked cool. And he's going to sell a separate dock for it that looked really neat. And
let's go eat someplace.
And so I did end up getting one of those because it looks pretty slick.
Oh my
You're
God!
worried they're going to be falling into the retro
now I got to look behind me. Okay, got to look behind me every time you pull out. Not real life, bro. You got to look behind you. You got to look behind you. No, you didn't look behind you, dude.
And the Super Station has a lot of really
you've
good
had enough.
outputs.
You can only stay in this world for so long, dude, and then you can't take anymore.
It'll hook up to an old TV if you want to do that.
You just can't take
Ain't it
anymore.
great
This stuff was designed to hook up HDMI.
Go to the bar.
Out
Come
of the
on, get
box.
the
And
fuck
so
out of here, dude.
don't
I can't take it. That was like
need
boom,
to
boom,
get
boom,
a retro
dude.
Tink
It's enough you're
for
challenging
a
me,
Mister.
but just it's constant, dude.
However,
Jesus, can't walk.
it's pretty fucking cool.
Okay, let's get out. I just want to get off this game, dude. I just want to get off the game.
You can
I want to
basically have
fulfill
it do
what I got to fulfill
analog
here.
video out over HDMI.
Whatever you want.
They call
There
it
you go.
direct video.
Come on. Just like,
And so you have the retro Tink do the
like
scale.
this. Let's get this fucker
To
out of
scale
here.
it.
Come on, give it what it wants.
The
Come on, give
Mister,
it
yeah,
what
the
it
Mister by
wants.
default, I think,
Let's
can do up to
go.
1440.
Can you
Well, that's
take
my
me
limit,
home,
But it's
baby?
really kind of made for
Before
1080.
we totally break and do something stupid.
And if you're a scanline sicko, if you're really big on these fake scanlines and black screen insertion and all of those other features, then
What happens
the
here?
retro Tink is going to satisfy those needs.
All right.
I'm
Good job,
kind of
good
into
job. We gonna meet again,
what
huh,
the
player?
retro
Yep,
Tink
yep,
can do on
good
that
job.
front, and I am very much not a scanline sicko. The catch is, like, since I'm capturing things from the Mister so frequently or running it through a capture card, I actually can't run most of those filters and scan lines and all of that stuff because it doesn't capture well. It looks super fucked up on the capture. So I have to kind of capture it raw no matter what. And that's been fine.
Relationships can seem like an eternity.
You asshole!
You don't need a retro Tink to enjoy a Mister. But I have been enjoying what the retro Tink does with a Mister connected to it because it can automatically send a signal through the HDMI that says here's what core is running. And you can have profiles on the retro Tink that see that and go, oh, okay, cool. We know we need to crop this way, turn this on, do this, and it automatically configures itself based on what you're running on the Mister at any given time. It's fucking cool. But the retro Tink 4K Pro, like it is very expensive for what is ultimately super optional feature-wise. Like, don't do this unless you think you might also have more uses for a retro Tink than just a Mister. There's another piece of FPGA hardware. I want to say it's the DE25. There's been a handful of different FPGAs that people have looked at and said, like, oh, this is going to be the future. Like, the next Mister is going to run on this or this or this. I think it's the DE25 is the latest in a growing line of here's the thing that's going to replace the Mister. And we'll see if any of those ever catch hold. And if, because eventually you're going to want to have more power for this stuff. But, like, the Mister scene is still evolving and going. Like, the Mister is probably going to be the first place where you'll, I'm putting pressure on the developer of this core right now. But, like, there's progress. It's probably going to be the first place where you will be able to play CDI games that require the digital video adapter, the MPEG card, like Dragon's Lair and Thunder in Paradise, and a lot of important CDI software. He has a version of that core up and running that runs Dragon's Lair right now. And it doesn't run all of the MPEG stuff. It doesn't run the video, the movies and stuff that came out on CDI. But like, he's making progress on that stuff, and it's awesome. Yeah, then you got like Hotego's working on CPS 3, so in theory, Street Fighter 3 will at some point run on a Mister. And then there's that weird kind of offshoot group that said that they were going to have their own hardware solution that never materialized, and they had a bunch of people lined up that at a while there it seemed like a big deal when they announced it, and they were like, oh, Narc and Mortal Kombat aren't going to run on the Mister, it's going to require this other thing because we need more power, and like none of that stuff ever materialized. I don't really know where that stuff stands, but that's kind of it's a weird, it's a scene. I'll put it to you that way. It's a scene with all the ups and downs of any scene. Psychus asks, have I checked out any of the laser active emulation stuff? Yeah, I talked about that on the show last week. That Ares is now, which is an emulator for PC and other platforms, I assume. Ares can now run Pioneer laser active games like a Pyramid Patrol and Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. You know, like the Pioneer laser active, basically you took what looked like a car stereo, a detachable car stereo, and plugged it into the front of it, and you plugged in the Genesis one, and you could play Genesis games, and you could play Sega CD games, but also you could play Genesis-based laser disc games. And then there was another one for the PC Engine, for the TurboGrafx. You would plug into the front of it, and it would play TurboGrafx games. And then they also made some Laserdisc games that are TurboGrafx compliant. So you need to have both if you want to play the full library of Laserdisc games. Anyway, the Genesis, the Mega Drive side of that is now emulated and up and running inside of Ares. And so now you can play these Laserdisc games. Like there's a great story. Read Only Memo is an emulation newsletter that Wes Fenlon runs. That's great. There's not a lot of great. It's like that and like Retro RGB or Retro RGB are like the only places I feel like I can go for emulation related news, and some of that stuff. It's still not enough. There's room for more. But it's a 16-year journey that it took for laser active games to be emulated, and I played a bunch of Pyramid Patrol, and it was exactly how I remember it from when it was new. Not a great game, but so awesome that I could play it. The game is like 28 gigs because laser discs are analog, and you can't really compress them down because different games use the laser disc in different ways that you can't really compress it without fucking it up. So the games are very large, but it's really cool. It's really cool that stuff is in a playable form. Yeah, I should get my hands on some more Laserdisc games, and maybe we should stream some of those at some point to take a look at it. But like the amount of different technology that had to come together for that to happen. Like, hey, the Domesday duplicator, a process of finally properly digitizing Laserdiscs to begin with, which that was already a hard problem. And then adapting that in various ways to be able to capture all the data on a laser active disc and all this other, like it's such a wild process that it's great that we're finally at this point. Can we play Time Traveler yet? Yes, you can play Time Traveler in MAME. It's not projected onto a weird bendy holographic display. But yes, you can play Time Traveler on your PC right now. I don't know that I would recommend it, but yeah, you can. You do you. Like so many things regarding emulation, once you jump through all the hoops to get there, you might find that the games themselves are not worth playing, but you sure can play them, and that's what matters most. Michael in Kansas City, Missouri. Bryce says, based on your recommendations, I've played a ton of Vampire Survivors and recently got into Soulstone Survivors. Playing both of these games has me thinking it's time for a Survivors-style reboot of Smash TV. Do you know who owns the IP, and what would you like to see out of a reimagined Smash TV? It's Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, unless they've sold it off separately, which I don't think they did, but Warner owns all of that Midway IP.
Careful.
We were talking about that last week with Paperboy, when we were playing Paperboy 2 on the NES. Oof.
Oh God, what now?
I hate that.
And what would I want to see out of a reimagined Smash TV? So the cool thing about Smash TV is that it's fucking hard.
Later, bud.
Leave me alone, you freak.
And the cool thing about Smash TV is that it's a dual joystick shooter, and that it's tough, and it's and it's arcade hard or whatever. I got pretty good at Smash TV at one point. I'm not nearly as good as I was then, but I'm still okay at it. That and Total Carnage. I am really hung up when it comes to a reimagined Smash TV.
I don't do polite.
I was at DICE, the video game trade show.
Please don't talk to me.
This might have been 2008. I forget when it was, but Mark Turmel was there, one of the creators of Smash TV, along with NBA Jam and Turmoil and all those great hits.
God, what now?
And he told me about his plans for a Smash TV sequel for arcades that never happened.
Stick your head down a drain.
And that basically the idea was that it was a tall cocktail cabinet. It was like a 4-player cabinet where one player is standing at each side of the square, and that it was an idea for a 4-player Smash TV game in that cabinet style. And I've been unable to let go of that vision ever since, because that would have been so fucking awesome to see. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm unable to imagine a reimagined Smash TV because I want a proper, just direct sequel to Smash TV. But yeah, that's I would not, I think also I would say that I think a lot of the wave is maybe crested on the Vampire Survivors knockoff thing. I think those games are cool, and it's not to say that there will never be another new game in that style that will be good, but like a lot of them came out. I downloaded like 4 more of them last month and played them, and I was like, okay, these are, okay. I still don't think these are as good as Vampire Survivors or a handful of the other knockoffs that came in the months following. And so I feel like that trend is done. And it's not to say that someone won't break through with another one at some point, and there are still really good ones. Yeah, the Deep Rock Galactic one is really good, and they're still adding on to that thing. That's a really good game. Oh, that's okay. They're hitting 1.0 tomorrow. That's good to know. Maybe I'll check back in on that. That one was really good. But yeah, man, there have already been a handful of games in that style that have been really cool and really well done. And so I don't know that anything I don't know that I have ideas that I would go like, oh, there needs to be more of this. It just feels like, that we've got to move on to something else. Yeah, I mean, yeah, someone in chat said everyone's just making Balatro clones now. Sure, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. Smash TV Balatro, there you go.
See that bitch?
There's something like about that style of game that I think is really well done. When it's really well done, those games are super fun. And they're light, It's not to say they can't get intense, but generally, with it automatically shooting for you, it's like there's just a part of your brain that gets to switch off a little bit more, and you get to focus more on just like dodging and navigating, and it becomes kind of a different skill thing. And I like that about that genre of games.
Give me some dap, homie.
Auto shooting
roll,
survival
homie.
game.
For the grove,
Yeah, I'm always
we
down.
gotta
What are
put
we
work
gonna
in.
do?
Hey, we going
But I don't know, man. There's a lot of them. There's a ton that I haven't played
Okay,
still
let's do this.
on top
Get
of
in.
that. So I feel like I could go dig through a bunch of those and play if I really wanted more of those. I'm sure you could find them. I like seeing that Hades 2 now has a 1.0 release date. I'm actually looking forward to getting back into that. Speaking of games that got cloned in a billion different ways, and like the number of things that people lifted from Hades 1, and in terms of how characters are sometimes presented and shown and everything, I feel like Hades is very influential over the years.
You the Joker or something?
I played a lot of Hades 2 when it first hit early access. I put a lot of hours into that, and you know, it was not, you know, there was not always a ton of content there, but I made some real progress in that game, and then I have not touched it since then. Like, I definitely hit a point with it where I was like, you know what, I'm going to wait on this one. With Hades 1, I would check in on it every 3 months, 6 months, you know, just things like, well, 6 months, but I checked in on it.
Look at it, dude. I can't even fucking move. Oh, I can't get out of the fucking body shop. I can't get out of the body shop, dude. You gotta be kidding me.
I get why they're making another Hades game. Like, this feels like really fun. And I've
Get off the scroll wheel. Get off the scroll wheel.
Looking forward to.
Look, come on, dude. Come on, please move. Please move. Let's go, guys. Please move.
Either way, I think I'll start over. It's just been so long.
Come on, what excuse you using?
I don't remember.
8-point turn, you know, fucking body shop.
Who do I go to buy this or buy this or buy this? You know,
it does it every time, dude. It does it every time I pull out of it. Every time, dude.
So I'll probably start fresh once they hit 1.0. That's gonna do it.
There's always a car when you're turning. See, in case I turn left.
Thanks everybody for writing in again. Podcast.
Erga. I don't like that. I don't like.
Send me an email. That's the one and only address to do it. Send me an email.
I'm gonna lose it.
And we'll I don't know.
Now
we'll talk about
rolling,
something.
CJ.
I'll be back tomorrow. We'll play some games tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe we'll look at Dragon Slayer on the Mister or something. It's not. I don't think it's like quite like playable or whatever. But so maybe it's a little too soon for that. But I don't know. We'll find something. We'll play some video games. We'll do something on the internet tomorrow here, and then next week, if everything goes according to plan, Ben Pack will be with us. So come on back next week. We'll see what's up with that guy. And talk about the world of video games do come through. Do check out the Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann for all of your video gaming needs and such. There's a bonus podcast and ad-free version of this podcast and videos and so on and so forth, all over there for you to keep up with if you're looking for a way to keep up with it. And
they're gonna cut us up
with
at this
that,
speed, more gas.
I will see you tomorrow morning.
Hey,
And then, of course, on Friday we'll rank some 8-bit Nintendo games, and we'll do it to it. Everybody have a good rest of your week, and I will see you soon.
Schedule doctor's appointment, turned in expenses,